Hey guys, it's Rina, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be reading Lungs, a Klance love story, posted by AO3 Klance fanfic, and written by Dreamicide. Now, now that we are done with introductions, let's get right into it. Chapter 1. Take a deep breath. Stuck in the water in my chest. Page 4. Mama, look at me. The boy waits for his mother to turn her attention from one of his siblings building a sandcastle to smile at him, nodding encouragingly. I'm watching, she says in approval. Her maleficent voice giving Lance the confidence to wade out further in the water. The gentle ocean waves lap around his small chest as he slowly inches forward. Her expression flickers into a concern for a moment when he's far out enough for the water to touch his neck. But relax. Then he starts treading with his arms, practicing what he learned in swim class. He gives a glance back to his mother to check if she's still watching him with a grin. She starts clapping and grins widely. Careful, Lance. Careful. Lance lets the swell of oncoming waves push him forward, a few feet closer to the shore. Back to his waist height, sinking his toes in the sand below, he calls back out, Okay, don't worry. Don't look. His mother raised an eyebrow. Don't look, he insisted. I wanted to practice my next trick before I show you. Chuckling, she angled herself back to the sandcastle. One of his sisters are building. But she keeps her eye carefully on him. Lance sees and pouts his lip. Mama, he huffs. The attention of his motto. He attempts to imitate his mom, staring with a scowl. One of his children. I said don't look. He even puts his hand on his hips at the same time. She does. She laughs at Lance, prepared himself for one more time. But then his little brother starts to eat a handful of sand, which thoroughly distracts his mother. She finally turns away from Lance, feeling like she has enough privacy. He waves back to the next high water, letting the waves slap his skin. Lance loves the ocean. The bridge of the water sea salt crushing on his skin, the sand between his toes, the smell of seaweed in his nose. Living just a few minutes stroll down the boardwalk makes these scenes intrusively part of Lance's life. He can't imagine not seeing waves crash, the feeling of sun bearing down on him every day. He hasn't lived very long yet, but Lance wants to stay by the ocean forever. He feels like he was born to swim here. Lance stretched the water, with his arms and legs, like he practices in class, for a few moments. When he gets tired, he lets himself sink back down, the rest searching for the sand floor, wiggling his bones. But it's not there. He drops down in the water and submerges so abruptly that he flails. The salt water burns his eyes. When he kicks back up, spitting the taste out of his mouth, his head breaches the surface after catching his breath. He tries to find the bottom, but it's still not there. He goes under and kicks furiously and splashes the water back up. His arms and legs went very quickly, getting tired. He needs to find shallower water fast. Lance tries to turn around to swim back to shore, but it's too far away. When did he get so far? He doesn't remember swimming out that much. The beach is distant from his family. Looking like the group of ants, he realizes he's out alone in open water. He kicks and splashes, forgetting the moves he spent so long learning and practicing in class, desperately trying to swim back. But he never gets any closer. If anything, it looks like he's getting even further away. Lance starts to panic. He whimpers, pushing himself even harder to get back to the shore, but in vain. He's getting so tired he wants to cry. Lance breathes and screams, but he sinks the voice coming out, nothing but bubbles. In reach, feeling the cold one against his hand, he kicks weakly, but he feels the air against his face. Lance tries to scream again, but no sound comes out. He sings again, trying so hard. His eyes open thoroughly. The singing upbrink looks up at the surface, only inches away from the surface. The bright sphere of the sun distorted through the water. He reaches for it, but he can't hold his breath anymore. Mama, look at me. His lungs burn. He's so tired. Mama, please, look at me. Something grabs a hold of his hand. Lance doesn't know what's happening, but when he comes to it, he's back in his sobbing mother's arms, holding him tight. He vomits seawater and feels weak and out of it, conscious, as an ambulance is called and takes him to a hospital. Lance remembers later being praised by many people, his father, first responders, lifeguards, for being so smart and knowing just what to do. When he gets caught in the rapids, currents swim parallel to the shore to break free. As the currents, they swim back. Lance didn't think that sounded right. He didn't do any of that. He didn't even learn rips or currents were yet. But he can't explain how he got back. Neither, so shrugging. So instead he just shrugs and stays quiet. He stops going into the ocean. Chapter 2. What the Water Gave Me. Age 6. Lance sits on the beach with his mother, curled legs to his chest, the chin resting on his knees. He watches his cousin splash around in the shallow water, shrieking and laughing as they wrestle one another. He digs his toes into the warm, dry sand, missing the feeling of wet and grounded him from the waves. His friends and family stopped calling out for him to join them from the water a while ago. They know he'll always decline. It's not like he's scared of the ocean. Lance doesn't know why he reacts the way he does whenever he goes further than a few inches. It feels like some sensation of his chest and chains him down, freezing him like a deer in headlights. He can't handle the feeling of nothingness below his feet, nothing but to the ground, nothing to ground him. It makes him feel lost, sick. Okay, maybe he's a little bit scared of the ocean, but he misses it. He misses the piece of his soul ripped out from his fingers. Lance tried so many times in the past 2 years to overcome his feelings, but they're fartness. He can't get over the issue up to his ankle. I'm gonna go to the pier. Lance stands up, brushing the sand from his legs and turning his mother for her permission. Okay, right by you. It's right by where you saw the blankets for the other day. So she smiled warmly and nods. Don't stray too far. Bring me a pretty shell. Yeah. He wraps his arm around her neck and kisses her cheek before he leaves. It's a large structure. The pier is a large structure housing the restaurants and the fishing docks. The top of that, my brain just died. I'm so sorry. At the top, but not disillusioned. His underside waved through a giant wooden pillar. Stepped over the beach. Seaweed, the water and peaceful. The quiet, generically lapping, the barnacles on the pillar, the wooden planks above, growing under the footsteps. The pattern becomes Lance's favorite place to go whenever he wants to be alone. Finding finding the familiar large piece of driftwood, he sits down like on a bench and closes his eyes. Even if he can't participate, Lance loves the sound of the ocean. Seagulls crying, crabs skittering, wind springs salt in his hair. The startled gasp and the splash to his left. Wait, what was the last part? Opening his eyes, Lance shoots up, turning to see with a flash of dark hair disappears behind the thick pillar. Lance pleads, hello? Is someone there? Go away. Well, Lance first thought could make a new friend, but if the stranger wanted to be like that, he scowled. Nuh-uh, this is my spot. No, it's not. Now go away. Lance didn't like to swear, but what the heck? You're not the boss of me. You're too scared to even come out. I'm sitting here whether you like it or not. Just to protect his point, Lance crosses his arms and plops back down onto the driftwood. He inwardly winces. Wood isn't good for the butt. The stranger falls silent, still hiding in a spot behind the pillar. After a few moments again, more quietly before. Please, his voice wavers. Please just go away. Leave me alone. The frown melted off Clance's face, getting up again, timidly stepping closer into the shallow water. Are you crying? No. It sounds like you are. Are you okay? My mama has a first aid kit. I said I'm not. Why are you hiding, huh? Lance is closer enough to reach out and touch the pillar, avoiding the slippery-looking barnacle circling around the pier. Looking at the stranger, some big red slashes through the swallow water, spinning to spray Lance's face. He falls back on his rump, crying out of surprise. Hey! Wimping out of his eyes quickly, he looks at the scent glare, but not stop. The strange kid who looked about Lance's age, he clutches onto his side of the pillow, hesitating like a cat, actually hissing at him, shaking his long wet hair out of his eyes, curling into himself as almost a fertile one. One of those kids from the storybook. Lance's mother reads him at night, and first Lance thinks he's wearing a long swim trunks, but when he shifts, Lance sees a vibrant red, orange, and violet scales catching the sunlight, peeking through the floorboards above. Again, Lance doesn't swear, but holy crow. You're a mermaid, he gasps. You're the mere start of the same time. His eyes widen on the Lance, giving him a clear view of his indigo fleece and the color. Lance is drowning. Eyes look up at him, webbed fingers on his slipping grip. Again pulled his hair, red tail, the air on his face. He can't breathe again. Lance was worrying, acting strange, freezing up so suddenly when his mouth gasped, except to look at the murmuring going on through something similar. He still feels his eyes scanning over Lance with the recognition. He can't describe it. He gives Lance an encouragement to ask, have we met? Lance doesn't notice his fin of the mere head, the loose of human ears, until they drop suddenly, folding again his head. You almost look guilty. Yeah, it's all concerning. Wait, he's practically shrinks. So you're the one who saved me forever ago. What happened? You're a mermaid, and you saved me. You're a mermaid, and you saved me. He knew there was no way to swim back on his own. He wanted to hug him, but he barely resisted. You saved me. You saved me. Look, I'm sorry, okay? Lance stopped jumping up and down and stared at the creature. He had shouldered hunched over, sinking into himself defeatedly. Huh? I I don't know what I did, but I was only trying to help back then. Lance blinks in confusion. I'm confused. He steps closer. You're sorry? Mermaid child nods. But you saved my life. You saved me. That's good. The boy doesn't look like he believes him, but you never came back after that. Huh? You used to swim every day, the mermaid admitted, advertising his eyes and shifting his spot and tail, swishing light in the water only inches deep. Lance wondered if he can move this far up the shore and why he hasn't swam away. I never talked to you, but I saw you a lot from far away. So I saw you that day. I thought something was wrong, but you never came back. I thought I did something bad. No, Lance laughed a little. No, the opposite. You helped me. I'm sorry for yelling at you earlier. The mermaid child relaxed a little. I'm sorry too for yelling. He trails off, tail curling a little, letting the water droplets fall on the tip of his fin. Since I helped you then, could you help me? Lance beams brightly. Yeah. He immediately grieves. What do you need help with? I'm stuck. He looks embarrassed and shifts around in the wet and sand, unlike sticking instantly to his fin and tail. I swam too close to shore, and I can't move, no matter how hard I try. Could you take me back to the water? Lance glances back to the ocean and follows his gaze. The waves are gentle here, but still feel appreciative. Biting his lip, he turned back to the mirror. How far out? Just till I can swim again, the boy says. Like a foot of water? He shrugs. Sure. Lance takes a deep breath. Okay, I can do this. He sure is not going to offer his help to the one is not going help to the one who saved his life to take back because he's too scared. How lame would that be? Drawing forward, Lance offers his hand, the boy taking it. The boy takes them to his own slipping webbed fingers locked into his Lance, smiling at the image. Just like before, huh? Keeping a smile on Lance, turn them around, starting to drag them back out towards the water. He feels wet and his ankles rising higher with each step. Don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. He digs his toe into the wet sand, with every step rooting him before he pushes onwards. The mermaid's quiet, squirming every once in a while. He drags through the crossed sand with his tail, sweeping the surface, eyebrows furrowing when they make it away half a foot of water. I still can't get enough traction. The dart's too far away from home. Don't think about it. I'm Lance, he blurts out suddenly, visibly starting. The other boy, my name's Lance. What's yours? Blinking, he parts his lips to answer, your skirt. Bless you. He looks at Lance flashily. Your skirt. He repeats slowly, the name rolling off his tongue, like the sound of the storm waves crashing to each other. Lance thinks he has the right organism implicated. He looks at your skirt apology. Can I maybe call you by a nickname? The mirror tilts his quilixies his head but nods. Okay, it kind of sounds like Quinch. He scowls darkly. Okay, that's a no-go. Kurtz? Still frowning. Mick Fishface? Now he's glaring. Keith? He frowns a little, but less. It's Keith then. Lance doesn't realize he's already a full foot of water. At the time, he settles on his nickname, jumping a little when Keith's ups slip from his fingers. They shoot out like a torpedo. Wow! He scrambles to the shallows water, where he watches Keith dart around the pillars, circling in far eights with beach of surface through long hair over his eyes. Lance sees him smiling for the first time. Thank you. Beaming, Lance waves his hand, laughing when Keith lifts his tail and does the same thing. Hey Keith, wanna be friends? Lance, who are you talking to? Lance nearly trips over himself, sound of his mother coming below the pier. Turning, her dear smile down. Kindly, him. Smiling at him, glancing over the water. Keith is gone. No one, Mama. She laughs airily and remembers. He forgot to find her a pretty shell. Chapter 3. The Arms of the Ocean Carrying Me. Age 8. Curling himself into the fetal position, Lance moans, wrapping his arm around his stomach. He feels his mother's delicate fingers brushing his hair smoothly, worrying each in her voice, whispering edge in her voice. Por poquito. His words from yesterday. Better? About the same. Lance mumbles, burying his face into the blue bed sheets. His mom makes a sympathetic A little brother's head pops out from under the edge of the bed, wide-eyed, blinking curiously. Mama, why is Lance still in bed? He doesn't feel well, but he's been sick forever. Lance makes a pathetic noise, kicking weak out of his siblings. Mom, leave me alone. They both stick their tongue out at each other. His mother picks up Lance's brother and props him on her hip. Child, chilling him and not bothering to bother him when he's sick. She glances to Lance. Do you want me to call the school and let them know you're not coming again today? Lance pushes his lips out in a pout, as he thought his last thing. I guess, he conceded. I shouldn't go when I'm sick, should I? It would be better if you recovered first. Yes. She sat down his squirming brother, reminding him to go brush his teeth. When he scrambles out of the room, he leaves and kisses Lance's forehead, resting the darling to go back to sleep. I'll be back soon. Lance closes his eyes, listening for the familiar sound of his mother rounding up to find and take everyone to school. Screeching patterings of his little feet, bread popping out of the toaster, his mom's serene voice telling everyone they have 5 minutes. He stretches over the sheets and gazes up. The plastic stars scatters across the ceiling when he hears the door opening and shudders to listen to the sound of the car starting to sit up, swiggling his legs over the edge. He pats over to the window, offering a clear view of the beach peeking between his neighbor's house. And he squints. He can't see the very edge of the pier because it's the second home to him. The sun shines in the early mornings, producing good weather. Once he's sure he's alone at the house, Lance grins, bouncing over to the closet. He grabs his backpack, already prepared with the towel and snacks. He switches out of his pajamas for a t-shirt and blue pair of swim trunks. Before he leaves, he stuffs a pillow under his sheets and Lance shapes and tiptoes out of the room. Downstairs, he slips out of the house and the back door, humming his improved sneaking under his breath. The beach is empty during the day. At the time of year, the adults are busy working and all the kids are at school. It provides the perfect opportunity to go meet Keith under the pier. Lance sees him make his way under, beaming the sight of the mere turn away, sitting comfortably up to his shoulder in water. It's still too far out for Lance to be jumping but by himself, confidently as ever, getting. I'm so sorry. It's still too far out for Lance to be comfortable jumping by himself, confidently, and since getting back to the beach, Keith keeps his distance from shore himself, the major of their friendship being spent with wide berths between them. But Lance wants to start chatting that. Hey, he calls out, waving. Keith shifts in the water, turning with brown waves, like he wasn't expecting to see Lance. He probably didn't think Lance grinned himself, but Keith smiled softly, drifting just a little bit closer. The distance between him, the distance between, where did it go? And the distance between him isn't so great. You're here again? How many days has it been now? Lance waved off nonchalantly. It's like maybe a week, but it's still no big deal. Keith gives him a pointed look. You can't keep skipping school forever, you know. Watch me. Lance laughs, sitting down on the sand, and he pulls out a snack from the bar. Snack bar. Oh. For a second, I thought they were in a bar. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Okay. Pulls out a snack bar from his backpack. You should see now how sick I act. I'm so good at it. I could probably never have to go to school again. You shouldn't do that. School is really important to humans, isn't it? Psh, what would you know? You have never even gone. Lance pauses in the middle of his bite. Or do you? Is there like a mermaid school? Like for a school of fish? Even fish have school? Or is it totally like just a mermaid school? He starts muttering to himself, tapping his snack bar against his chin in thought. He glances up to Keith, is advertising, his eyes frowning deeply. You already know what my answer would be. Lance swallows immediately and feels guilty. Alright, it brings him back to the reason he's been skipping school, to come out and hang with Keith in the first place. It's the weekend, and Lance has been pouting since he arrived at the pier, crossing his arms and kicking the pebbles as he explains he got into a fight with his mother and she grounded him from playing video games. He already gave it to me, Lance seethes, describing his classmate to Keith. We traded cards, but after recess, he changed his mind and demanded that I'd give it back. But I wasn't but it was a super rare holographic card, Keith, and we've already traded. You don't take no takebacks. Then what happened? Keith asked, laying closer as he came to the shore on his stomach. I don't know, swirling the water in his fin. He had tried stealing it back from my backpack, but I shoved him away from it. Then we fought. Lance's face sour like he ate a lemon. The teacher made me give it back, and now I'm grounded. Lance knows Keith couldn't possibly understand a lot of what he says, but he paid attention all the same, which Lance appreciated. Ugh. He flops on his back and sighs, watching the shadow from the patrons promoting through the pier above. He doesn't have that kind of thing ever happen to you. What happened? Did you ever get into a fight with someone? Keith thinks. Something like a shark comes too close, I'll punch it in the face. Then I'll go away after that. Lance snickers. You booped the shot. What? Nothing. It wasn't what I meant. But your mermaid bullies? Are your parents... Do your mermaid parents ground you? Keith falls quietly, the light splash slowing to a case. No, I don't have any of those. Lance sits back, his earlier rambling immediately forgotten. What do you mean? You don't have parents? Keith shrugs. Then you don't know so then you don't have to go home every day? So you don't have anyone to go home every day? No one. Lance doesn't know how to take this information. Keith doesn't look like he's too bothered by it. Maybe it's a little awkward, but not necessarily distraught. His Lance thinks it would be fun to live without family. Do you know any other mermaids? No, no, Lance. I've never met anyone else like me. He speaks of about it, matter of factly about it. It pulls a twist and something inside Lance's chest. I've always been alone. Lance can't believe he's never had his best friend. They've known each other for literally half their lives. But when he thinks about it, he realizes Klance never talked to him about home or family or other merfolk. So just listening quietly to Lance paddle on about his life. Lance is a social creature. He can't imagine growing up not ever talking to another human about Keith's survival. How Keith survived this long on his own. Doesn't being a mermaid make a difference? Keith already told him once. The stray pier so much better because he can scavenge for scraps that fall from the restaurant above for pluckfish, bait on the hooks. No fishing. No fishing poles are really needed at all. No family. No school. No dream job. No games. No friends. Keith scooted back and started idly drifting out between the pillars, evidence of thinking of the part of the conversation. It was over, but Lance didn't think he can go on normally after this. He wanted to do something for Keith. He just didn't know what. I could bring you some of my friends over sometimes. Keith halts, lifting his head above the water, with his fin ears twitching, as if he doesn't think he's hearing right. What? We could have a party, and then I'll make everyone promise not to tell anyone first. Of course, but after they come, you'll make so many new friends. Keith scowled. No, why not? I'd bring all my best friends, and you'd really like them, and I think they'd really like you. I said no, Lance. Lance falls quietly, looking at his friend with concern. He doesn't understand. He can only visit after school and on the weekends. Any other time, Keith must always be alone. Why? The mere threat of the water and distance away, arms crossed and shoulders bunched on himself. Lance has come to recognize that look whenever Keith feels particularly defensive or guarded. He looks at Lance for a period of time, but then glances up. You're the only human I ever want to talk to, he admits. And that doesn't suddenly make Lance feel like he's on top of the world. He is overjoyed to hear such explicit efforts from his best friend. Of course, but the fact of the matter is that Lance couldn't be with Keith every hour of the day, and that's more rarely got even closer than a few yards from each other. That's how Lance hatched his plan so that he'd find himself skipping a solid week's work of school to hang out with Keith every day. He's going to spend every waking moment as possible with Keith. He's going to learn how to get back to the water. Obviously, Keith can't come up to land off in the beach. So if Lance wants to be able to be with Keith and actually be with him, then he needs to be the one to go to Keith. Once he figures out that it's being fake, his sickness out every day, so he can spend a few hours of inching, he slowly inches away into the water. He hasn't made too much progress yet, but he's made a lot more, so that Keith and him weren't helping every day to step away. He's feeling extra stupid for asking a mermaid about school. He sinks down on himself. Not very hungry anymore. Sorry. Keith kind of shrugs, not particularly affected when it comes to this situation. As always, it's fine. He drifts off closer. You want to start? Lance can tell if Keith wants to change the subject, but he scuffs back to the snack bar in his bag and brushes the sand off his leg. You bet. Tossing off his shirt and draws closer already, sailing through the inch of water. His goal is to reach Keith today. Taking a deep breath and stepping forward, Keith simply watches patiently, trying not to disturb the water too much. Lance shuffles forward, kicking up the clouds of wet sand and wiggling his toes every inch or so to make his way closer. It's slow progress, but something about it is easier when he looks at Keith as the goal, as the end point, rather than his past endless expansion of the ocean. He could suck him up, the dust in the vacuum any minute. He doesn't wonder about other mermaids. If Keith exists, then surely that means they came from somewhere. Do you have any societies or soldier nominees like Keith, who gave Keith a real name? Do humans know about them? Are they like the ones in movies? Lance is so lost in his thoughts and focused on Keith's image that he doesn't realize he's already waist deep until a small wave surged up his chest. The farthest he's ever gone since the ripped currents. Since he almost drowned, Keith saved him. Keith, who would always save me if I ever got carried away by the waves. As I thought, the amount of anxiety, Lance's chest spread a smile across his face. Something warm found Keith looking at him with similar instructions, swimming forward just enough to close the distance and reach out his webbed hand and takes Lance with his own. He can't help but grin and laughed and bubbled in his throat. Wow, I can't believe it. Yeah, I told you I did do it. I told you. See? Keith smiled, staring up at him. Lance takes a moment to admire the indigo colors of his eyes for the first time since he's helped him back to the water 2 years ago. Keith has combined both brown freckles and dark violet scales smothered across his cheek, glistening the light of his tail fin to look like a sunset. I believe you now. You know, Keith says, I knew you could. It's not enough to be able to play games and swim together, but it's more progress than Lance made in years. For the first time, he can really make it back out there. For now, they'll have to settle with this. Lance, there's their hands' fingers intertwined together, and they grin brightly. You know, it's the same for me too. He squeezes Keith's hand. You're the only mermaid I've ever wanted to talk to. He turns to the sight of the mirror, turning red, his tail fins rolling his eyes. The That'll probably is going to be how it's going to be, whether you like it or not, Lance. It's the thought that counts. And that was the end of that chapter. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed, and don't forget to give me reading recommendations in the comments, or just leave a comment. I always love reading them. And I love you guys, and until next time, peace out.